definitely reply. Also on TikTok again now. Let's talk about preparation now. The Samoa coach last week complained he only had 6 sessions prior to the first test defeat to England. I thought that was a poor excuse. I said so on social media. Some of the Samoan fans fell out with me. But I'm saying that's a lifetime for a coach who's working with full-time professional players. I've done similar things with players who are not full-time professionals. I've done things like this with players who are very much amateurs and still got the result I needed. And I'm going to put my money where my mouth is now. For those who had a go at me on socials, here's how I would do it in less than 6 sessions. And apparently Samoa landed on Saturday in England and then played the first test the following Sunday. So I'm going to start my preparation on the Sunday, the day after they landed. So 7 days before the first test. The first thing I'd be asking the players to do before they even got on the plane, I'd be asking for all their information, their weights programs, their prehab, their rehab plans, their diets from their clubs. I would likely contact the clubs myself for the players that I've picked. I mean, obviously, as Samoa coach, there's only so many players you can pick from, so you can accumulate a lot of this information throughout the season because you don't want the players' habits to change. You're putting them together in a week for a test match and then one the following week. So you don't want to try and change the world. Also, players who finished their seasons earlier in the NRL, the Super League, or whatever competition they were playing in, you would have contacted them and had programs designed for them either by yourself or by the clubs they're from, which would have included some rest, but it would have made sure they arrived in good condition. What you don't want is a player who's not moved for 6 weeks before he gets on the plane. In terms of what we're actually coaching the players, well, first of all, everything in general must come to always come back to 3 values. And the first one I would put forward is sacrifice. So anything that requires any kind of achievement, anything worthwhile, requires some sacrifice. It requires you to do things when you do not want to do them. It requires you to be away from family. For example, if you're on a tour, you need to sacrifice some things that you want to do in a game, such as take a breather to make sure the opposition don't score when you're defending on your try line. So sacrifice is a big thing. The second thing I'd focus on is belief. There'd be no room in my camp for anything negative. Absolutely none. Negativity wouldn't even enter the room. Samoa are beating England. There's no 2 ways about it. Here's how we're going to do it. And brotherhood. So I am talking about the Samoa men's team here. So we can use the term brotherhood. Brothers sometimes don't see eye to eye, but they've always got each other's backs. And they always want the best for their brothers. Everything on the training and playing field must be linked and come back to 5 essential things. Building pressure when playing football, holding the ball, restricting piggyback penalties, and getting good field position permanently or regularly throughout the game. Being ruthless, focusing on the next action in games. So if you've done something good, great. Don't spend 5 minutes dining out on that. Focus on the next action. And then do something good again. And then when you finish that, focus on the next action and do something good again. Likewise, if something poor did happen, next action, the next thing's going to be positive. The next thing, working off the ball. It's 80% of the game that every player spends without the ball. The best teams are very good at that 80%. The fourth principle, 2 efforts in the tackle, and that would lead, therefore, to ruck control. And the fifth principle, defending as a unit at all times. So those things again, build pressure, number 1. 2, being ruthless. Number 3, work off the ball. Number 4, 2 efforts in the tackle. And number 5, defending as a unit in all times. The overall focus of my preparation will be making sure that these players are fresh and raring to go physically. And there will be a huge mental approach to the preparation of this kind of team, with big focus on visuals, lots of videos of what I want them to do so they can mentally visualize doing these things and they can understand what they're asked to do before they go out on the training field and the field. And we will use teaching principles to make sure that they all learn in the best way. So we'll follow the VARK principle: visual, auditory, reading, kinesthetic. That's what VARK stands for. V for visual, so videos, any diagrams to understand whatever it is I'm asking the players to do. Auditory, of course, is anything they can listen to. Maybe I'd record them a podcast. But any videos could have sound, but also coaches have sound. They talk. Reading, if they need to read about what we need to do, that can happen too. Kinesthetic is doing. VARK, visual, auditory, reading, kinesthetic. Basically, everyone learns within that framework, and some people are more visual than others. Some people are more readers than others. Some are just doers. Okay? By taking that VARK approach to a team preparation, you will likely make sure that your players understand whatever you are putting in place. Sometimes in rugby league, we put too much information into players' heads, and we also put too much emphasis on doing things. Full-time professionals, if they didn't train for 2 days and just studied what they had to do, watched it over and over, and made sure they got it in their heads, could probably carry that out. And the training would be there to make sure the combinations linked with each other. Right? So a huge part of my preparation would be mental. On the Sunday, we'd warm up with some passing grids and introduce a general warm-up routine. And then we'd do some team-building games. Play a game like Double-Double. Have a look at that on YouTube. Rugby League Coach on YouTube. Type in Rugby League Coach Double-Double. Type in Rugby League Coach 20 passes, because that'd be the other game I'd play. So these players that have flown on a plane for 24 hours in total, they want to get some blood pumping through the legs. Some of them won't be teammates in clubland, so we'll break the barriers down straight away. From a conditioning point of view, also, we'll monitor the workload within these games, and the players can self-regulate too while they're playing a game. So they'll be getting plenty of blood pumping around the legs, and they'll really freshen up. We'll then teach them some basics about the ruck, but without going to ground. So I'm a big believer in, once you do collisions, if you don't go to ground, you're taking away a lot of the injury potential. So I'll show them what I need them to do around the ruck in terms of, this is what we'll do at marker. This is what we'll do at A defender, B defender, C defender. And this is how I want you to approach this. And then we'll play again. And we'll play focusing heavily on that ABC and marker defense structure. And I'll play something like the restricted pass game. Have a look at that on YouTube, on the Rugby League Coach channel, restricted pass. And I'll get each team to defend for at least 5 minutes continuous and then swap to attack with a big rest period in between to give a debrief. Because then they can just practice this marker and ABC system that I've just shown to them. And then once they've both had a go at doing the defense side of the ball, we'll then follow that principle through again, but follow the offensive stuff. So I will introduce some basic plays. And I know that the players are going to get them slightly wrong, but because they are professionals, they're easily fixed. So we'll let them practice in this restricted pass game where the clue is in the title. the passing numbers are restricted. They've got to play certain plays and you can fix them on the run. So that'll take us to something like an hour and a half in the session. And then we'd get some lunch together. And then I'd show them the attacking sets I want them to do and the way I want them to defend in videos. And then we'd literally go out into the afternoon. So we've been in the country now for 2 days. Is that right? Did I say this was Monday? Sunday. So we've been in the country for 24 hours. So it's not a heavy, intense session. They're playing a lot, but they're thinking. And I'd introduced my 3v2 routine. Now, I've gone on record 1,000 times saying if I could do one drill in the world, if God came down and said, you can only do one drill, Lee, it will be the 3v2. And I'll tell you why another time. And also, I'd reinforce key points while the lads are doing some dynamic stretches and any drinks breaks. And then we'd do a really low-key, very semi-opposed session. By semi-opposed, I mean the 13, A13 plus the rest on the other side and swapping them in all the time. And I'd teach them the sets and I would work backwards from good ball. So there'd be a couple of versions of a good ball set that is the same set but just can be done in different ways. A couple of versions of the same set that they can do in the middle of the field, and the simplest exit set you've ever seen. And we do the same thing with defense just to get them into the routine. Well, that's the first session, which is a real day just focused on some of the basics. The players have a good idea of how they're going to be told how to defend and how to attack. We've kept them on the feet all the time, so there'd be no collision or anything like that. And the only equipment we need is balls and cones. Monday, I'd warm up with 3v2 again. Remember, I feel that 3v2 is the most important drill you can do. But today, because the team have been in the country for 48 hours, I'm going to do a little bit of tackling. So again, I'll be very careful. The collision level will be determined. Again, one big focus of the camp is about keeping them fresh. So a lot of the stuff overnight in the hotel, we'll be asking them how they are physically, monitoring their sleep, etc. So I'd be focusing on really making sure that we don't get any players injured in this time, but not at the expense of doing some work. And overnight, they'll have also, and in the morning, they'll have been directed to watch what they need to do in tackle technique and in ruck control techniques. Again, those videos are out there, guys. So, yes, there's some stuff on the YouTube channel, but a lot of the videos are also on rugbyleaguecoach.com.au, and I would literally show them the Samoa players these videos because that's how I coach football. And I'd get the players into two stations and they practice them. But again, there doesn't need to be any mad intensity. I want them, if anything, to practice for muscle memory purposes more than anything. Still, okay. I might even separate the groups into those who feel a bit fatigued, those who didn't sleep great, and those who did, to really monitor the potential for damage. The ruck control work you can do it really slow and just get the muscle memory going. And then after that, I do the plays in a drill. So you'll know yesterday in training, we did it in a game. Today, I'll do them in the drill. So they've had 2 sessions and they've had the full kit and caboodle as to what they are expected to do when they play. The equipment needed for that was balls, cones, and tackle shields. The other thing I need to say at this juncture is that in terms of S&C, so strength and conditioning, remember I said beforehand that we're going to try as much as we can to continue what happens at the club. So in theory, their clubs are monitoring their S&C. So I'm a big person in terms of I like data and I like information to inform my decisions, not just the gut all the time. So in and around this, there might be some players that need to do an extra 10 or 15-minute conditioning session of some kind. It certainly will not be a one-size-fits-all thing. On Tuesday, I'll do my 3v2 warm-up again, or plays, to be honest, or maybe both. And then we'll do some ruck control practice. And this time, we will lift the intensity a little bit. So we'll ruck control practice in a drill format. In this time, I've also arranged some extra players from a local team. And they are going to be England. They are going to mimic England when we do an opposed session with them. And we're going to play for 20 minutes, break 20 minutes. However, this first opposed session will be really focused on coach intervention as well, so I can fix what's going on. When I'm happy, I can let the play continue. But those people who are mimicking England will come fully briefed. You'll also be aware that I will have to, if I've got a squad of 22, I'll have to change some players in. Although I'll be honest, there's every chance I may have named my team by today too. At some point, I need to let this opposed session run when I feel like I've done enough coaching and they're in a good place, because I need some video of it. And I want to analyze that and give them a review in the afternoon. On Wednesday, I'll give them a day off. They've flown all the way to England. So from the afternoon that day to the following day, they will have some time off. I want them to go and see a bit of the place or do whatever they want to do. Thursday and Friday, again, I'll be warming up with my 3v2s and my plays. Today, we're also going to do, on the Thursday, we're going to do some speed, agility, and quickness training. So ladders and the like and hurdles. And we're also going to do rhythm runs, which, again, you can see on the YouTube channel, which is defensive mapping, basically. We're going to do our tackle technique and ruck control stations again. And it's going to be 50% intensity rather than hard practice. On the Thursday, after doing that, we're going to go opposed again against the guys again that we met 2 days earlier. But this time I'm hoping that they can run through it quite easily without too much intervention from me. The same session will happen on Friday, but instead of it being opposed, it will be unopposed. So they can run through at their own pace and with just some semi-opponents in front of them, i.e. the subs and the leftover players from the squad. All we need for those 2 sessions are balls, cones, and hit shields. All the time, remember, we are monitoring the players and we're also feeding them enough information so they can mentally prepare for what they need to do. On Saturday, the day before the test, we'll just be doing things to sharpen them up. I'm a massive fan of training a bit harder 48 hours before rather than 24 hours before. The players might want to do a captain's run, but again, I just want them to spend a lot of time sharpening themselves up as well. Really light session, making sure their bodies feel great. That's how you deal with that kind of preparation in my mind. It's sometimes about what you don't do rather than what you do. When I looked at Samoa last week, they looked really heavy in the legs, which meant that they either did too much training or not enough. This Rugby League Coach podcast is going to be continuing this off-season, so please take some time to listen to some of the old episodes as well. Somebody who realised I was doing a podcast the other day, hello, Pat, went straight to episode 43, which was two sessions ago. He said he was going to listen to the episode on discipline. This one's episode 45 of this second season. None of you rugby league coaches or players need to suffer alone anymore. This podcast is here to help you. But wherever you are in your journey, Rugby League Coach is here to support you. And please know that I've been on every step of that journey as a player, as a coach, on both sides of the world. So there's every chance I can empathise with exactly what you're going through. And we can get next season sorted for you. There's still a free upgrade offer on all our online programs, which basically means if you purchase a program online, you'll get the equivalent in an upgrade on the other website. Okay?